Hi ladies, I am here to give you a little recap, a little video to refresh all of our pelvic floor exercises. So we're just gonna go through all of those isolated movements that we've worked on before, just as some practice, some guided work for you as we're trying to get those muscles stronger and build that range of motion. So to start, we're going to take some deep breaths, thinking about that pelvic floor. We've learned at this point how to do a full Kegel, that relaxation and then that full lift. So we're gonna work on that a little bit. Okay? Pelvic floor is always the most important thing to worry about. If the breath is too much to think about, just focus on that pelvic floor. Okay? So we'll start by taking a big inhale. Let that pelvic floor relax. As we exhale, we'll lift that pelvic floor towards the crown of our head. Inhale, relax. Exhale, lift. Inhale, fully relax. Exhale, lift. Inhale, expand. Last one, exhale, lift. Good, relax. Great, so next we're going to isolate the pelvic floor, the front, the middle, the back, talking about the three sphincters as they line up from pubic bone all the way back to our tailbone. So we'll start with the very front, thinking about our urethra connected to our bladder. Okay? We'll start by imagining we are starting the flow of urine. This is a small muscle, so when we stop that flow, we'll feel a little pinch and a lift. We'll relax down, starting that flow. Stop that flow with a little pinch and lift, just focusing in the front. We'll start that flow. We stop that flow with a pinch and a lift. Starting that flow. We stop that flow with a pinch and a lift and relax. Good. So now we're going to the middle, thinking about our vaginal opening. We can think of this as an elevator, inserting a tampon, relaxing to remove that tampon. Okay. Take a couple seconds, feel that vaginal opening, that space around it. Great. Well, imagine we are sliding a tampon up, pelvic floor slides up with it. We'll relax that pelvic floor to release our tampon. We slide our tampon up, pelvic floor lifts with it. Relax your pelvic floor to release that tampon. Tampon slides up, pelvic floor lifts. Relax your pelvic floor to remove that tampon. Tampon slides up, pelvic floor lifts with it. We relax that pelvic floor to release that tampon. One more, sliding that tampon up, pelvic floor lifts with it. We relax that pelvic floor to release that tampon. Great. Next, we're going to the back, that anal sphincter. We're thinking about starting a bowel movement. You can also think about forcing out some gas. You can think about then stopping a bowel movement, squeezing that anal sphincter, lifting up, or you can think about holding in your gas, okay? So just focusing in the very back, we'll imagine we're starting a bowel movement. Really let those muscles expand and release. From here, we'll stop that bowel movement, squeeze that anal sphincter, lifting up like we're holding in our gas. Relax down, starting our bowel movement. We'll stop that bowel movement, squeezing that anal sphincter, lifting up, holding in our gas. Relax it down, starting that bowel movement. We stop that bowel movement, holding in our gas. Relax down, starting that bowel movement. Last one, we stop that bowel movement, lifting up, holding in our gas. And relax. Great. All three areas should feel distinctly different, Okay, we will feel a little bit of movement across the rest of our pelvic floor when we're engaging those 3 separate areas, but we want that isolated focus, front, middle, and back. This helps us learn where we have some muscle imbalances, where our muscles are weak, and where we need to focus our attention. Okay, next up, we're going to the sides, all right? We talked pubic bone to tailbone. Right now we're going to either of our 2 sits bones at the bottom of our pelvis. Pelvic floor is a big diamond shape, so now we're just working that lateral movement. So first exercise we'll do will feel similar to that vaginal lift and release, but since that pelvic floor is not just one-dimensional, it expands the width of our pelvis, okay? So instead of focusing on this area, we're kind of moving out to the sides a little bit. So we're going to imagine we are lifting our sit bones up off of the floor or the chair, wherever you are, and then we're lowering them back down, letting them melt down to the surface. Okay, so wherever you're sitting, really dig those sit bones down into that surface. Good, well think about lifting those sit bones up. It's going to feel like a wider movement as we find the sides of the pelvis. We'll lower those sit bones down, let them melt into the chair. We lift those sits bones straight up and melt them back down to the chair. Let's lift those sit bones up, release them down. Sit bones lift up off of the surface of the chair, and we release them back down to the surface of the chair. Great. Next one is one of my favorites, and this is kind of the start of a full Kegel. With this, we're thinking about those sit bones again. We're imagining they're 2 magnets and they're attracted to each other, and then they're repulsed by each other, okay? So we'll think about those 2 sit bones sliding in towards the center, sealing up that vaginal opening. Sit bones slide apart, try to find as much space as you can. Sit bones slide in towards one another, sealing up that vaginal opening, and they create as much space as they can. Sit bones slide in towards one another. They slide apart, creating as much space as possible. Sit bones slide in towards one another, sealing up that vaginal opening. We find space in between those sit bones. Last one, our 2 sit bones slide in towards one another, sealing up that vaginal opening, and relax. Great. All right, so we just worked that slide in and that slide out. Now we're going to focus on that pubic bone slide forward and that tailbone slide back, just so we're getting different dimensions and different angles of that pelvic floor strength. So first one we're going to do, we'll imagine we have a wad of toilet paper in our hand. We're starting at that vaginal opening, and we're going to imagine wiping forward and up towards our pubic bone. We'll relax it down, release those muscles. We wipe forward and up towards our pubic bone. And release back to neutral. We wipe forward and up towards our pubic bone. Relax back to neutral. Starting at that vaginal opening, we wipe up towards our pubic bone. Relax down. One more, wiping forward and up towards that pubic bone. And relax. Great, next we're working the back, thinking about, once again, starting at that vaginal opening, this time that wad of toilet paper, wiping back and up towards our tailbone. We relax, release it down, return to neutral. From here, we'll wipe back and up towards our tailbone and release down. We wipe back towards that tailbone. Relax, release. One more, starting at that vaginal opening, wiping back towards our tailbone and relax. Great. So now we've moved that pelvic floor from lots of different dimensions. We're gonna put all of that together now for a nice, strong Kegel. When we do this, we wanna think about pubic bone, tailbone, and sits bones, all 4 points squeezing in towards the center and lifting straight up that vaginal canal. All 4 points coming in and lifting up, all right? So we'll start. Imagine you're starting to go to the bathroom. We want that full release for a full range of motion. From here, all 4 points, pubic bone, tailbone, sit bones, come in towards the center and lift straight up. We'll relax it down, really melt those muscles out, starting to go to the bathroom, feeling that space. All 4 points come in towards the center, lifting straight up. We relax, releasing down, finding as much space as we can in the bottom of the pelvis. All 4 points coming in towards the center, lifting straight up. And relax it down. Great. Now we're going to add some breathing in with it. Remember that diaphragm moves in tandem with that pelvic floor. When that diaphragm lowers to fill up those lungs, the pelvic floor lowers. When that diaphragm pushes air out of the lungs, pelvic floor assists to help push that air out of our lungs. Okay. Same idea, full range of motion. So we'll start with our big inhale. Imagine you're starting to go to the bathroom, everything expands. As we exhale, everything comes in towards the center, we lift straight up. Inhale, relax down, find as much space as you can. As we exhale, all 4 points come in towards the center, lifting up. Inhale, relaxing down, finding that expansion, as much space as possible. As we exhale, all 4 points come in towards the center, lifting straight up. Inhale, relaxing down, finding as much space as possible between all 4 points. Exhale, we feel that squeeze in towards the center, lifting straight up. One more here. Inhale, we lower down, find that expansion. Exhale, all 4 points move in towards the center, lifting straight up. And relax. Great, so those are all of our isolated pelvic floor movements to help build that overall strength. If you're feeling a little bit weaker in one exercise as opposed to another, maybe that's where we throw our focus. We do a couple extra repetitions with that one, just so we're building overall strength and support, working that release and that lift for a full range of motion, getting those muscles as functional as we can. Thank you for watching, and hopefully we were all able to see this well. All right, I'll see you next week. Have a great week.